dogs as a soul group are really here to protect us and show us that life is good and to hang on to the light. And that's what the dog did for me.
Welcome to Season 2 of the podcast, Spirit Doggies. I'm your host, Dani Fankhauser. This podcast series explores the spiritual connection between humans and dogs and is a companion to my short story, Dog Deities. Dog Deities is about a fictional society where people idolize their dogs, literally. You can learn more about the podcast and read the short story at dogdeities.com. All right, welcome back to Spirit Doggies, Season 2 of the Dani Fankhauser podcast. I'm your host, Dani. Today's guest is Renée Vos de Wael, and Renee is a deeply experienced animal communicator with international clientele. She's the founder of Sagittarius Way, which I love the name because I'm a Sagittarius rising. It's a platform that helps animal owners develop a profound connection with their pets. So she offers one-on-one sessions, courses, guided meditations, live sessions on the Insight Timer meditation app, Reiki Animal Circle every week. To start out, I love hearing people's intuition origin stories, especially people who work with animals, because sometimes animals are a part of that. So I would love for you to talk about how you first realized that you had these skills, and then what kind of activated the decision to get the training and start working in this area.
Yeah, I think for me, it grew out of childhood trauma. So I was really young when I started noticing that I'm communicating with animals. So I used to have a dog, and when there was racket going on in my family, he was the one sitting with me. We also had chicken and an enormous rooster that I would connect with. And to be really honest, growing up in that time, I actually thought everyone was talking to animals. I think my realization came more in when I was a teenager, realizing that not everyone talks to animals the way I did, which of course then kind of you can kind of take a step back and go like, oh. So then when I think when I was mid-30s, I realized, gosh, I should pick this up. I could see it in my kids coming back, so in my family line, so to speak, and started working with my intuition, with mediumship and developing my trade. And along the line, I had some amazing mentors, some big names, some people who I just met on the bus who would leave you with that nugget that you go like, oh, that makes sense. And I had a lot of animals along the way. So I have a magpie who goes with me when I walk my dogs. Yeah, some encounters with animals that really showed me like, it's time to pick this up, and I learned new things. I think one of my biggest teachers was a horse that I met, and I was kind of trying to pick up, how can I talk to humans, how I talk to animals, and how can I translate that? And I remember, chatting to him, and then someone would come and say like, hey, how are you doing? And if I would say something, he would like, or to make sure like, yeah, keep going, you're doing it. And that was,
wow.
so that was really, having someone standing by you and supporting you. That Porter was my guy, and he was really like, or he would literally push me forward, like, okay, you go say something.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Very like conversational, the way that a human would be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that really opened me up, and then along the way I got some really amazing people around me who said like, you have this gift, share it, start sharing it with people, start sharing it. And from there, Sagittarius Way was born, and I started making steps in sharing, and I've been blessed with some amazing people who trust me with the conversation with their animal. It's such a privilege to be that person, to help people and listen and make sure that your words are arriving with someone else who's listening to the conversation. It's really beautiful, humbling thing. I feel very blessed that I'm able to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And out of curiosity, what was the dog saying to you when you were a child?
At that time, it was mostly like stay in your room, and it's stay here. It's better to stay here, or if helped me to fall asleep, those kind of
Hmm.
things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the dogs as a soul group are really here to protect us and show us that life is good, and to hang on and to the light. And that's what the dog did for me, distracting me with playing, or getting me
Yeah.
to the window to look outside where the sun was shining and those kind of things. So yeah,
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
dog was for sure. Yeah.
And I like what you just said about a soul group. Have you come across other themes like that with different types of animals that have like a different purpose?
Well, the experience I had, of course, not with all the beautiful animals that are walking this globe, but yes, with cats and with dogs and horses, those are the animals that arrive mostly in my practice. I had a couple of birds as well, and chicken, but especially the pets that we have domesticated, so to speak. And they're really always here. Cats are here to show us how to get empowered, and
Mhm.
really kind of pushing us. Of course, we know all the expressions that that cats have people live in their house.
Yeah.
Dogs are more loving, and they just embrace us just the way that we are. Cats are more like, oh, go do something, and more pushy in that way. And for me, horses are all about healing. So healing trauma, and healing frequencies, and calming people down, and really helping in that matter. So yeah, there are themes that I have come across. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think of, people who are drawn to having cats versus dogs. When I was first adopting my dog Bambi, someone mentioned that I think she just said having a pet in general might help you develop a secure attachment style, which I thought was really interesting because they kind of bring that attachment style to you and get to be that primary relationship that's secure.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's really special. And there's always this combination of, do we choose the animal, or is the animal choosing us? How is this relation coming about? Where are we in life when this animal kind of enters our life as well? Is also very interesting. And yeah, I find it fascinating. And along the way, I'm learning, right? I never would say I have all the knowledge with me. I learn every session. I learn new things from them as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to dive into some stories or examples of things that you've learned from our wise animal friends?
Well, I've learned, one of the things I learned is how important names are. And I know some people struggle with their names, or there is some bully effects with their names. And I remember me a horse that was living at the time at a barn where they've given him a stall name. So horses come with a name on their passport. That's how they travel. But sometimes they come with a name that is difficult to pronounce. So they get a barn name. And so his name was Albert. And he really hated his name. He thought it would diminish him. It gave him that people wouldn't take him seriously. He felt small by the name, and almost like a bullying way of how he was treated. And yeah, it was really stuck in his body. So when he was adopted and ended up with his family, we talked about giving him his new name. So we had this whole process of giving him a new name, which became Rex. So he kind of picked Rex, and really stepped into that new energy of the name, and the empowerment of that came, and became a completely different horse, like a completely different personality, outgoing. He stopped biting and kicking. His riding style became different. He became an enormous support system for some teenagers, and it was really beautiful to see how that changed in name impacted him. Yeah, that was beautiful to watch, and I was able to watch the whole journey for him, from at the barn where he was, and then how he got adopted into a new life, and how the name was picked. And yeah, it was really beautiful to see that transition.
And so the horse got to be part of picking the name. How did that play
Yeah.
out?
Well, I invited the new family where he was with. I'm never quite sure if I should say owner, but I'd rather say relationship that he ended up in.
Yeah.
So we had a session when he just arrived, and his name came about, and I said, well, he really doesn't like his name. He keeps talking about it. And so she's like, oh, I'm totally open into having a new name. What does he want? That's always the first thing that we ask. And
Hmm.
so he really wanted her to be part as well. And looking back at it, she was also at a transition part of her life where she was in. So I said, well, why don't you do some homework, and then he has some ideas, and then we'll gather back. So she did, and she came back with some names, with some meaning of the names and how she came about it. Some names he really didn't like. He was like, oh God, that sounds like someone is, I'm in trouble if someone says that name. And it was really funny because I said to her, video yourself, say the name, and watch his. So she would say name, and he would just flatten his ears completely against his when he would hear a name. And then we came about this name. So it was a combination of having a chat with him to see his expressions, where he could show her. He showed me some pictures of things, and he really wanted something royal. I think he got it. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
really awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for someone who's not familiar with animal communication, and I know there's like different ways people do it, but can you tell us like what it's like for you? Are you hearing words? It sounds like you have just very detailed conversations with animals. Does it come in pictures? What's that like for you?
Well, when I started out, it was mostly feeling. So I would feel things in my body, like goosebumps, or different places would warm up, or those kind of things. And then later I got teachers who kind of forced me into exploring different ways, because we have a tendency to stick to something that comes easily to us, of course. So then pictures came quite easily to me. And also the realization that if you see something, it means something to me personally. So that got connected to my own personal experience. So, if an animal would show you a rose, you would translate that differently than me, because a
Hmm.
rose would mean something different to me, or the color orange, or those kind of things. So I started realizing, like, oh, it's really important to see the impact of the image that I see and translate that. And it started to become a whole new dialogue when I started noticing that. And then slowly the words came as well. And I remember one of my teachers telling me, like, a conversation is an energetic thing, and it's the invitation that you give to the conversation. And I think that's with friends as well, right? We know our friends, and we know their background and where they're coming from and what they mean, and that's how the color of a conversation starts. So I really started to invite that as well. Yeah, sometimes it's just really fun to combine the word and the picture and the feeling, and
Hmm.
then it becomes a whole thing of the conversation. And then I'm trying to be that bridge to share that with my clients in the conversation. I think that I find that sometimes the most difficult thing, to be the bridge and finding the right words for it.
Yeah. It's sort of like you're translating in real time.
Yes, yeah. And English is not my first language, so sometimes I also have to translate
Yeah.
my Dutch habits into
Hmm.
English. And I had the pleasure of living in different countries, so I learned a lot of different English over the years
Okay.
as well.
Yeah.
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 So it's a combination of cultural awareness, and yeah, it's a really beautiful language. It's a beautiful language. Yeah. I think you could probably compare it best with light language that a lot of people work with as well. It has vibration and colors, and it tries to arrive in our hearts, and it tries to connect with our heart center. Yeah,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Yeah,
I like thinking about it that way.
yeah,
Hearing through the heart versus
yeah,
through any particular, like, our usual senses.
yeah.
What are some of the most common questions that people come to you with?
Most people want to know how their animal is doing and if they're happy. I think,
Mhm.
you know, when we have animals enter into our heart, we want them to be as happy as they are making us, right? So they bring so much love, unconditional love into our lives, and it's just we want to give that back. So I think the most asked question is my animal happy? And what can I do or give? Or it depends on the love language someone has. Some people want to give or more activities or different foods, or it really that's a beautiful thing to see because and I'm like, oh, I know where this human is coming from too. So what can I do to make their life better? And most of the time, their life is already better because they're in their life. You know, they're in the
Mhm.
best peace that they need to be. But I would say those are the two most asked questions, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. And then what are some of the suggestions that you end up giving someone? Is it very specific, or are the dog or cat just kind of like, "Let's cuddle more?" Like, I think my dog would be like, "More cuddles."
Well, if your dog is a cuddle language is their way of love. Yeah, there's a lot of dogs who are very active and they want to go run more and jog
Mm.
more or can you throw the ball more or those kind of things. Or food, of course. There's so many animals that are food related and they want more food. Any horse you talk to, if you can give them more treats, then
Oh.
would like you know
Yeah.
more carrots, more apples. Most of them are very food related things, but some of them really want you to work on your things because they want you to be happier, and they're trying to show you, to have you in front of a mirror and show you the things that um, you could work on or build on. So a lot of the time the conversation also goes to the person they're in a relationship with, and say like, gosh, it would really make me happier if you be more clear on your boundaries, or it would really make me happy if you would take care of your health, or those kind of things. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, so that's where they kind of show that level of wisdom, like, we talk to animals like they're babies and often treat them like small children, but then, what is their intelligence level? Like, it's not quite. What's your impression been? Like, do you find that they have a lot of that wisdom where they're actually able to kind of provide that therapeutic insight to the person that they live with?
I think so. I think their intelligence is extremely high, and I'm getting really pleased that we are getting more and more scientific proof of it, because the way we communicate, we always want proof for certain things. And I know in the University of Saskatchewan they do a lot of research about this topic, but I think their intelligence is so much more than we can embrace, but they present themselves in a certain way so that it's easier for us to relate to them as well. So I think they align with us on our energetic level as where we are, and that's how they show up.
Mhm.
Right? It's been my experience. So I think everyone, and I think the beauty is that thank God there's so many animal communicators, and they all bring and translate differently, and bring a different gift into this language that we are sharing. And that way this can grow because everyone is highlighting something different. But I think there's no doubt that they're exceptionally smart, and their
Mhm.
EQ is so high. It's definitely
Yeah.
something that we can learn from for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, and that's a really interesting point that, there's so many different ways that people do animal communication and different ways that they sort of specialize. Do you find any themes in the types of clients that seek you out?
Well, for me, there's a lot of healing happening. So I have a lot of clients who come to me with animals that are in pain, and yeah, I seem to be able to help with healing sessions, and I think that's why Reiki came on my path as well. So I do a lot of healing sessions for the animal and grounding them and helping them to keep their energy flow going. And I seem to be able to kind of find where the pain is in the body and then help the person they're in relationship to understand where this pain is coming from and help them in a healing journey. And sometimes it's a mirror action of something that needs to be healed in their human person as well. So it's a combination of those kind of things. And yeah, I really enjoy all my clients that show up, but those show up the most, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you say is that often a medical issue that the animal's having?
Sometimes it's just energetic blockage. Sometimes it's something that needs to heal for both of them. So traumatic experiences or the way that they approach life. Sometimes we have a certain way we approach things. So, some people are big fighters, other people are just, they just watch what's happening and their animal is trying to help them heal certain approaches so that they get a different perspective of life. And it's all energetics, right? So, and because we're all one, so if it's going well with my animals, it's going well with me, or the other way around, right? So that's how they kind of mirror that.
Yeah, and I want to get more into the mirror dynamic, but first I'm curious what the relationship is with people going to the vet versus coming to you. Is it usually they try the vet first and come to you, or does it kind of go both ways?
It goes both ways. It depends on the experience they had with a vet. So sometimes people have a traumatic experience with their vet. Sometimes the vet is stuck and is not able to help further because their perspective is in a box, so to speak, the way they've been trained and they look at things. I really like working with vets. So if people have been going to the vet, I always love to hear, like, gosh, what did the vet say? And do you have any results? Did you do blood tests? And those kind of things. I don't know much about medication, and I'm also not really interested in that. But I know that the combination of both of us, so having the vet and me, has been, in my experience, very helpful. So, there is so much the vet can do, and then I can energetically help further along. Of course, I am not able to reverse cancer or those serious things, but I am able to help with pain relief and with walking the journey together, so to speak. And that sometimes helps by reversing certain experiences, of course, because you can experience the time that you have together in a different perspective, and you're not only focused on the dis-ease, but you're also focused on the relationship that is happening in the now, and that's quite healing for both in the relationship.
You might share my opinion that everyone is intuitive. Learning intuitive practices helps me feel more confident making everyday decisions and regulating my emotions. And the online course that I took with Lotus Lantern became a foundation for so many other skills. Reverend Liliana has a compassionate and inclusive teaching style. Follow my affiliate link in the show notes to learn more. I got into meditation because it helped me get past writer's block. But I never had a committed practice until I did meditation teacher training with The Path. Halfway through the 3-month program, I was having vivid cinematic dreams every night, and I could sit cross-legged for 25 minutes without moving. The real reason I love this program is the people that you meet. If you're looking for soul family, try meditation teacher training, and you can find my affiliate link for The Path in the show notes. And finally, if you're ready to manifest your own spirit doggy, you'll want to join the workshop and community called To Be Magnetic. This is not your typical manifestation class, but it's a blend of journal questions and hypnosis meditations that help you to excavate core wounds. And a side effect of doing this work is that you make choices from your true center. So go to the show notes to find my affiliate link for To Be Magnetic, and you'll also get 15% off. So you're using Reiki.
Yeah.
How do you explain Reiki to people?
Yeah, that is a difficult one, right? So it's an energetic healing system, so to speak. It started, of course, in Japan, and has been going from one person to the other person, and we love, you know, putting things in trademarks, and we love putting things in trainings and in levels and those kind of things. For me, it's a journey working with energetics, and you grow into it and you get stronger in it with all the things that we do. So if you learn how to ride a bike, you get better at riding the bike, and then you get faster at riding the bike, and then you get better at riding your bike up the hill and those kind of things, right? So it's your skills get better. For me, it's an energy that comes through my body. I can feel the tingling, and it's an energy everyone can feel. If you rub your hands together and keep them close, you can feel that energy in your hands. So it's available for all of us. It's probably something that everyone has always done, because if you have pain, you put your hand on it, right? If you hit something, you go like, ooh, and you rub that energy, you activate that energy in a way. So that's how I perceive Reiki energy as well, coming through my hands. It's something that you can make space for long distance as well, and invite it, and then you can feel that going through you. It's a difficult topic to not go too woo-woo into.
Yeah.
Really like to keep it very grounded and very specific if I can, but it is difficult to explain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that
Notoriously
help? Was
difficult
that
to
helpful?
explain. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always like to hear the different ways that people explain it, because
Yeah.
it's so hard to, it's star energy coming, like you said, it
Yeah.
can be very woo woo, but that's almost like the most accurate way to explain. But I like what you said about how it's something we're experiencing all the time. So Reiki is just a way to manipulate the energy that we're all already using and
Yeah.
experiencing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And for me, growing up, and still living my life, and the journey I'm on, it's something that is available for all of us. I really don't feel like I'm a special gifted person for doing this. I just decided to develop these skills, because these skills are available for everyone. And I hope more and more people are learning them. It's like, learning a language, like learning Italian or Dutch, and it's there. And Reiki also, it's there for everyone, to work with. It's a support system for us to heal. There's a lot of self-healing that we can do.
Yeah. Yeah. A whole capability that
Yeah.
supports us as well as the pets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So going back to the idea of mirroring, I think about that, especially, when you first adopt a pet. So when I first saw my dog Bambi, I was on an app that showed shelter dogs in the area, and I had kind of like this immediate recognition. I would say I just felt attracted to her, and I wasn't looking for a particular breed or anything like that. I was basically looking for a smaller dog, and she's a Chihuahua. So I hadn't been looking for that specific breed or anything like that, but it just was like I felt drawn to her. And then I'm gonna do a whole episode about this, but she had already been adopted. A couple months later, I swing back onto the app. She's there again. And so I ended up getting to adopt her, but it was really interesting to me, this idea of kind of like having this soul contract, or this it just felt very meant to be, I guess, is a quick way to say that. So yeah, I'm curious like how you describe that energetic dynamic of, the pet's issue is mirroring the human's issue, and what that means, that you're brought together. Are you sort of meant to be together? Are you just attracted to each other? How do you describe that?
Well, it's a combination of all those things, I think. And Chihuahua is quite a powerhouse to get into the door. Like, wow. Sometimes I think it's good that certain powerhouses are in the body that they are, because gosh, Chihuahuas that's just beautiful the way they have that around them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think you energetically have to be aligned to an animal. So sometimes we are not at that moment, but you can feel the attraction already. So sometimes it means that they go to someone else and come back, or then you get that movement each other. I also think that some of the animals, we are aligned for a period of time, and then we are able to kind of move forward for them with someone else. I do believe that sometimes an animal is not supposed to stay with someone forever. I know we like to we feel disappointed if we are not able to take care of them anymore, but sometimes that's the soul contract that we have with them, is just for a short period of time. And that is okay too, because if that time is full of love and consideration and growth and healing, then it's beautiful to share that with someone else. I always think, for them to move forward to another family or another person. So I see that as a beautiful healing journey for the animal and the human being. But I definitely think that the mirroring is what do we need at that time, right? So if we are healing from abuse, and we connect with an animal from the shelter who's also been going through abuse, then there is this kindred spirit, I would say. And together you kind of start working through these issues. And then the energetic healing that we do with Reiki is also happening between, because we are aligning our heart energy and our heart centers with each other, and start healing that. And that's the power of healing, is there's this willingness from both sides, like, we want something better. How are we going to do? And then your dog or your cat, whatever animal it is, it's like, oh, I want that too. So then you have two lines of energies going about, like, oh, how can we do it? Like, we should walk more. Yeah, we should walk more. And then this person gets more healthier and gets stronger, and the dog gets stronger, and the dog learns how to play with the dogs in the park and starts to learn how to make friends. And then the human is meeting these people in the park with the dog, and is making friendships. And you see how that energy is lifting each other up. I think that's just beautiful, because you went from a lower vibration together into a higher vibration together. And yeah, that's, for me, is the mirror that goes by both ways. Does that make sense? I hope that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. And do you have any specific examples? Like I would say, like with my dog Bambi, she has separation anxiety. So I'm like, am I anxious to be alone? Like what are maybe some examples where someone's brought in a pet who has a specific issue, and then you were able to kind of like guide the person, like, here's what you're, potentially able to learn or heal through this.
Well, it doesn't mean that you have anxiety too, but it could mean that it would be good for you to go more out the house. So you can help Bambi by her anxiety to go out and meet other dogs or other humans. At the same time, it gives you the opportunity to meet different people. And within those people, or in that community, you are going to meet what you need as well. So it doesn't have to be an exact mirror, but the mirror is
Mm-hmm.
more like, okay, she needs to go more out. That means you are going to more out, and you're meeting what you need, and she's meeting what you need. It's
Mm-hmm.
not black and white. So the mirroring isn't black and white. It's full of color, like the flowers behind you. It brings all of the aspects together. And then when you step away from it, you go like, oh my God, that's blending so beautiful together, uh, into a puzzle that needed to be brought together. But
Okay.
it's not that one person had anxiety, so the other person has anxiety. It's how can we level up together, and what does Bambi need, and what do you need? And then that will bring you two together in the healing process. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like, in meeting her needs, then I'm prompted to meet my own needs, which
Yeah.
prompts, and it kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I know some people, and I know you see this on social media as well. Like, I got a dog for my social anxiety. I have a dog with social anxiety. But
Yeah.
if you take a step away from it, if you take the ego perspective from it, and you look at it, you go like, oh, I need to calm down my life maybe a little bit more. There's no need for me to go out and about so much. I just need to slow down. And that's what the dog is showing me, like, oh, we need to just slow down. So it's different. It's very individual, I have to say,
Hmm.
what this animal is going to bring to you. It's yeah, it's not black and white at all.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and so it sounds like there's a lot of potential with engaging with this. For all the people who have pets, there's kind of this missed potential in engaging on a deeper level. So I'm curious what gets you excited about more people coming to animal communicators or learning how to do this themselves.
I think our world is so much bigger than we think that it is. And I think inviting a different soul group or a different animal into your life is adding, of course, a different energy, but it's adding more color to your life. But it definitely brings a different perspective to life. So if you are only focused on goals and perceiving those goals, and then all of a sudden you get this dog who needs to be walked like 4 times a day, all of a sudden it's like you have to go like, oh, I have to go outside. And all of a sudden it's bringing in a whole new world that it was right in front of your doorstep that you would have never engaged in if you wouldn't have the dog, or if you have a cat that all of a sudden just keeps looking outside, you go like, what's this cat looking at? And, you know, so even this cat is going like, oh my God, I have this beautiful garden. Why are we not in the garden? So you go sit in so it's this invitation that animals very patiently introduce us to. Yeah, and we are of course inviting the energy that we are ready to receive into our lives, right?
Hmm.
I hear many people say like, gosh, I never thought I would get a dog, or never thought I was a cat person. But I think we all are dogs and cat persons. It doesn't really matter. But what are we willing to let into our lives is, I think, is more important.
Hmm.
Animals. Yeah, and starting to communicate is just, I don't know. I don't even have words for it. It's just a feeling of happiness, I think, um, to start communicating and opening up to that. And you have to slow down. There's no, I always know, like with this interview, I get very enthusiastic and I can talk for hours and hours, and I feel all this bubbling coming up in me. But communicating with them is actually to just slow down and to sit with them and go like, okay, I'm ready. I'm okay. I'm gonna listen. Okay, and I really have to step back and just listen and go like, okay, what do I have to say? And I think we can all do with a little bit slowing down.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And is that slowing down to their pace? Is that kind of what's happening or?
Um, I think it's also a slowing down because it's a very soft whisper. The communication starts as a very soft whisper, and you have to slow down to actually hear it.
Mm.
It's not as easy as turning on the volume so that you can hear over all the noise that is happening. But yeah, it's that whisper that you have to connect with. So you have to slow down and go like, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay. Life is hectic, I think. So slowing down is good.
Yeah, definitely. So if someone were going to come to their first animal communication session, what questions would you recommend that they bring?
Um, I think a curiosity of how their animal is trying to communicate with them already. I would say an openness of becoming sovereign in the communication yourself, knowing that there's already a whole dialogue going on before you arrived having a session with your animal communicator. You have habits with your animals, and yeah, you're already talking to your animal, right? And going from there. So knowing that you already know a lot. You know so much more than what I am going to share. It's there will be a lot of aha moments, like, oh yeah, that's true, and oh yeah, I see that all the time, that my animal is doing that. So yeah, an openness that it's not a new thing. You're already halfway the conversation, and then me or someone else who is other animal communicators are stepping into this conversation that the two of you are already having. We're just like stepping in halfway. Yeah. So I always invite people to keep on with the conversation. Like, okay, there's this tool, go play with it, and keep going. That's that's what I hope it will bring for people.
Yeah, I love that. I do astrology, and I've also gotten quite a few readings, and I would say that's always the most profound is when someone tells me something and I'm like, "Oh, I knew that." And, it's sort of like you have
Yeah,
an intuition, but you don't believe yourself, but then someone else validates, and then it
yeah.
builds that self-trust with yourself. But then I can see how it would be that way with an animal too. Like, oh, that's why she's barking at me.
Yeah, and most of the time we know what they're trying to say, but sometimes it's nice if someone else says it and you go like, ah.
Yeah.
But I always encourage anyone who books a session with an animal communicator, it's really important that you have a click. And so for me, I always, you know, invite people to tell me if there is no click. It's important to have that trust with your animal communicator. Is this a person who I'm aligned with? Is this person using the right words, or am I getting out of this session what I need? And speak up for it. If because if it's not, it's important to say, like, I think we don't jam together. I think I need someone else in a different capacity to have this conversation with. Really be clear, and open to have this conversation with someone, because it's completely powerful experience if you do this coming from your own heart center, with your animal. And it's such a
Yeah.
beautiful relationship to have with your animal. So yeah, honor that relationship.
Yeah, and something you offered that I thought was so cool is the Reiki circle. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Who comes to that and what's the format like?
Well, so we meet once a week, and it's free, so everyone is free to join that. And they come with their animals, or animal. Some people come with a whole pack, but uh, and so we sit in love and kindness together. I start the session with a little bit of a meditation. So uh, you know, describe nature where we're sitting, and we meet in our beautiful uh, clubhouse, so to speak, our beautiful setting. And so everyone sits in the circle. I invite every individual with their animals to come forward and to be in the center to receive the reiki. But everyone else in the circle holds space in love and kindness for this person and their animals. It gives me the opportunity to connect with both of them and leave them with a little message of what's going on, ground them into calmer energy as well. And then we move through everyone who's in the circle, that sits in the circle. And then afterwards, I always invite people to maybe share something that came up for someone else, so that you start building that animal communication seeds that you have in you. And because you're sitting in such a calm space with healing energy, there have been some really profound things, like, gosh, when your dog came forward, I saw this and that. And someone goes like, oh my God, we went for a long walk along the lake or something. So this dog really wanted to know, like, I loved that walk. So you slowly start building that, or opening up to your gift, because we all have that gift. I always want to use the right words, because yes, you can open up your gift, but it's something that we have. It's a language that we have in our hearts. It's just opening that door and the trust to. And I think you use such a beautiful word of getting validated in the things that we already know. And that's what we kind of do in the Reiki circle for each other as well.
Yeah.
So you receive beautiful healing, but you also have the space to develop your gift.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're giving people a chance to experience animal communication, but also practice their
Yeah.
own. There's such it's such an empowering way to offer that support for
Yeah.
people. So I think that's really, I think maybe the theme that I've seen and how you describe your work is that it's very empowering for people.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And animals want us to get empowered, right? That's what they really want us to do. And that's why we sometimes look to oracle cards that has a message of an animal, right? That's why we grasp.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but it's a seed in us. We all know how to do this, so it's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Renee, let us know how we can get in touch with you. Favorite, you have a newsletter, a website, any top social media that you're active on?
Well, yeah, I have a website, and you definitely can hop on my newsletter. I do offer a 15-minute free session to get to know me. It's not an animal communication session, but it gives you the opportunity to feel if I'm the right person to work with you and just to chat. And I'm very active on Insight Timer. That's a place where I
Yes.
do live sessions, and those are free. So, you know, I always try to find topics or animals to connect with. My meditations are free on there as well. So yeah, people can find me there. It's called, I think I'm called the Sagittarius Way and Renee.
Hmm.
Just to make sure people get my name too. So yeah, people are very free to connect with me there. Just reach out, I'm happy to share all the knowledge animals have to share with us. So
Yeah, amazing. I love Insight Timer, and I've done your meditations there. So
yeah, yeah,
definitely a great way for anyone who's curious to just get a taste of what this is like.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and reach out. I just reach out to me. If you feel like there is a click, please do. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Renee. Great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I hope this podcast brings you closer to your furry friends. And if this episode made you think of someone, why not share it with them? You can send the link in a text message, an email, or even put it in an Instagram story. And to help us reach more people with heartwarming and paradigm shifting stories about animal consciousness, please leave the podcast a 5-star review.